In the midst of Israel's claims of fighting a multi-front war, U.S. President Joe Biden held a phone conversation with the Emir of Qatar. Their talks centered on the release of the Gaza hostages held by Hamas. The White House said both leaders also discussed measures to boost humanitarian aid to Gaza. The Qatari news agency reported that the leaders talked about efforts to reach a permanent ceasefire. Qatar played a crucial role in the 7-day truce deal, in which over 100 Israeli hostages were reunited with their families. The release of Palestinian prisoners who were held in Israel was also facilitated. In recent days, talks have intensified for another truce. Israel is negotiating for the almost 130 hostages in Hamas captivity. However, the negotiations seem to be moving at a slower pace than before. Earlier, an Egyptian plan was rejected. It had proposed that Hamas will give up control of the Strip in return for a permanent ceasefire. Meanwhile, tensions have also grown in the Red Sea. Several world leaders are holding discussions to secure the crucial economic passageway. Earlier, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a phone conversation with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The two leaders discussed maritime security in light of the situation in the Red Sea. All of this comes in the wake of the recent attacks on India-linked merchant vessels. India has vowed to counter the threats. Jordanian and Egyptian foreign ministers also met to discuss the security of navigation in the Red Sea as well. All right. We have a guest with us. For more on this, we are joined by David M. Littman, a senior analyst at the media monitoring organization Camera. He's joining us live from Boston, Massachusetts, here in the United States. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, David. Given the fact that Hamas, Islamic Jihad, rejected a bid for a ceasefire by Egypt just a day or two ago, and the fact that Israel continues its operations in Gaza, is there even a possibility for some kind of ceasefire at this point, despite the fact that the UN Security Council agreed for a humanitarian one just recently?
I don't think so. There are two different types of ceasefires that are being talked about generally. One of them is more the limited humanitarian ceasefire. One is a permanent ceasefire. The latter is what Hamas wants and what it has signaled it will only accept because it wants to get away with the crimes it has committed and be able to continue doing it in the future. The shorter humanitarian ceasefire to allow for the release of hostages and to provide greater aid, it seems that is not likely to happen. And according to anonymous Egyptian officials that have been quoted in Arabic media, that is entirely because Hamas is being intransigent and demanding that all fighting halt before it even talks about releasing hostages.
Yeah, that's very true. And we see this talk about aid supplies reaching the Gazans. The UN Security Council, when it voted for a humanitarian pause, the temporary one, as you rightly mentioned, they agreed that Israel should be able to monitor this aid going into Gaza to just make sure that it's humanitarian in nature. The United States and Qatar are moving in this direction to get more aid into Gaza. Uh, do you think that we will see more aid going into Gaza and this outcry over the lack of aid, which some of it is very exaggerated, will finally perhaps come to an end?
The issue with the aid is very clearly not coming from Israel's side. Israel has done as much as it can to ramp up the ability to get humanitarian aid into Gaza. It opened the Kerem Shalom crossing, and it has been inspecting the goods before it goes in there as well. They have made very clear that the issue right now is the United Nations not being able to ramp up its side of its effort to distribute aid within Gaza. Now, the United Nations has put out a number of self-serving claims that it's not true. They're blaming the combat for not being able to deliver the aid. But this is an organization that has repeatedly been caught with its aid delivery being hijacked by Hamas. If it wants to lay blame where it belongs in terms of aid not getting to the people that desperately do need the aid, it needs to be directing its remarks towards Hamas, not to Israel, which has fulfilled its side of the bargain.
Yeah, it's remarkable how the stealing of aid by Hamas militants gets lost in the conversation when we talk about aid. David, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
All right, thank you.